You get paid.
Yeah.
Hang on, wait a minute. That thing goes actually, you have to use it. It's gotten really quiet, so I think I'll start. Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Jan Nettler, your worship associate for this morning. I'm also a member of the minister search team. If you're new or returning from a time away, we're glad to see you. Please feel free to fill out a blue welcome card, which you'll find in the pews and put in the offering plate later in the service. There's a link to an online version in the chat. We'll put you on our email list so you can receive emails for the rest of your life that tell you about everything, all the good things that we do here. We're glad you're joining us for a summer service, which are often lay-led and less formal than during other parts of the year, but you're so lucky to have a real Unitarian Universalist minister today. So you can see our website for complete information about our summer services. There's also some handouts in the back that have the schedule. Our interim minister, Reverend Eric Cherry, is currently on vacation, but he'll be back in the office tomorrow and will lead the worship next Sunday, July 27th. The 10 a.m. service next week will be at Arcadia Wildlife Sanctuary. So do not come here, head to East Hampton, and it's a wonderful experience. We'll have a worship service and some activities, some hikes, some small group discussions, some games maybe. So we strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that those of us in the Connecticut River Valley live on the unceded homeland of the Pecumtuck, Nonotuck, and Western Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge our responsibility to confront the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history. And at the same time, we affirm and celebrate the many legacies that inspire us. We have drawing materials and other ways to occupy your hands on the tables in the back. Restrooms are downstairs. You can go through either doorway. You can take the stairs or the elevator. And the building code has changed recently, and so once again, we're able to offer restrooms that are inclusive to trans and non-binary people, as well as caregivers who might be helping someone, like a baby of a different gender. We have one room with a lock on the door if you need a single occupancy restroom. Our guest worship leader this morning is Reverend Maddie Sifantus. Reverend Maddie retired in July of 2024. Are you having a good time? She's having a good time. As a 10 years settled minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Santa Paula, California. So there's a short bio in the order. You can read that, read a little bit more about it. And she's going to be joined by her sister, Bonnie Cotto, who's a cellist. And Bonnie is a professor emerita of Assumption College and lives nearby in South Hadley. Welcome, Reverend Sifantus and Bonnie. We're here to, I wanted to say one other thing. I'm a member of the minister search team, so I thought I'd give you a 30-second update. Not a lot has happened, but the team has met several times. We've been getting to know one another. We've been working on a covenant, doing some busy work that they make us do that it actually seems very important. We attended an online workshop for everybody, all the congregations in search, and we've scheduled another workshop with the director of the transition department of the Unitarian Universalist Association. That'll be just directed with us. That's going to be in a couple of weeks. What else do I want to say? Pretty soon we're going to ask you guys to do stuff. In September, we'll be giving you a questionnaire, and we hope to get 100% return, trying to figure out what you want in a new minister, what's important to you. And then we'll also have numerous small group discussions throughout September to get more feedback from the members of the congregation and the friends of the congregation. And then also we're starting to set up a workshop to deal with biases, whether they're known or unknown. And we're hoping many of you will attend this online workshop in the fall. You'll hear more about that later. So we're here to celebrate, to reflect, and support one another. It's good to be together, and let's enjoy the prelude. I think that's you, Bob.
We come together to lament with, to celebrate with, and to care for one another in our community and in our world, which so deeply needs it. Because we want to be here with one another this morning. Love is not only at the center, but also the opening that invites us to lament, to celebrate, and to care. Love invites us to honor our interdependence with all beings in the web of all existence. Love invites us to envision a world where all are free from exploitation, and the smallest to the largest are protected and nurtured with care and respect. Love invites us to create inclusive, equitable communities. Love invites us to know in our hearts that all people are inherently worthy and have the right to flourish with dignity and love and compassion. This morning, love invites us to worship together.
I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit for our chalice lighting. We will remain standing for the first hymn, For All That Is Our Life, number 128 in the gray hymnal. We light this chalice of our faith. Please join me. You don't have the words? Well, then don't join me. Okay, I got it. I don't know why they're not in the order of meeting. Okay. I will say it for all of us. We light this chalice of our faith for all the ways each one of us walks or moves through our world, in the way this congregation moves together, letting all our voices be heard. May we each speak our truth to each other and the larger world in love. For us to greet one another. Those of you in the Great Hall, please extend a welcome to someone near you. Say hi to someone you've never met. It's a blessing to be together. dedication, music,
Yeah.
and then I'm back up here.
Yeah, and then you do the offering.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You
Yeah.
say some words, I go down and sing.
Oh, right.
Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation with some words I've adapted from my colleague Christopher Buse. Where there is indifference, may we bring justice. Where there is selfishness, may we bring equity, one of our values. Where there is stagnation, may we bring transformation. Where there is homogeneity, may we bring pluralism. Where there is isolation, may we bring interdependence. Where there is greed, may we bring generosity. And where there is hatred, may we bring love. Let's hold a moment of silence. Make us instruments of your peace with love at the center of everything we do. May it be so. Amen.
Generosity makes everything we do possible, and it helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community. Half of the proceeds of each week's offering supports the Society's operating budget, and half are shared outside our walls. You may mail a check, donate online, or put your contribution in one of the plates that the ushers will pass. The offering will now be given and very gratefully received. Our pianist, Paige Graham, and you know, we have a tech team. There are a couple of them are working diligently in the balcony. You don't see them, but thank you very much. So for reading today, we have a reading called "A Person is a Puzzle" by Mark Mosher de Wolf. A person is a puzzle. Sometimes from inside it feels like some pieces are missing. Perhaps one we love is no longer with us. Perhaps one talent we desire eludes us. Perhaps a moment that required grace found us clumsy. Sometimes from within inside, it feels like some pieces are missing. A person is a puzzle. We are puzzles not only to ourselves, but to each others. A puzzle is a mystery we seek to solve, and the mystery is that we are whole even with our missing pieces. Our missing pieces are empty spaces that we might long to fill, empty spaces that make us who we are. The mystery is that we are only what we are, and that what we are is enough. In the gray stillness of this morning, not really gray today, into the accepting peace of a still sky, let us offer our failings, our inadequacies into the silence. And let us know that we are accepted by God and by this company exactly as we are, accepted, missing pieces and all.
Thank you, Bonnie, for being here. Such a treat for me to have my sister with me. Here we are on a Sunday morning. However you are watching, those of you in front of me here in these historic pews, those of us off in Zoom land, wherever that might be, we're happy that we're all able to gather in all the ways that we're able to gather these days. As you've heard, I'm the Reverend Maddie Sifantus, retired from serving the Universalist Unitarian Church of Santa Paula, a historically Universalist congregation. I'm not leaving the ministry. In fact, I haven't quite figured out what retirement is yet. This is part of what it looks like, being in front of you this morning. But I'm stepping back this year. I've been stepping back to discern, kind of regroup and refresh, what is it that's really calling me at this time? Is it more ministry? Is it more music? Is it ministry and music? What is it? And leaving space to figure that out. And I do a lot of mornings like this morning and rites of passage, weddings and services of union, and all of that, and providing music like I did this morning, singing one of my very favorite songs, Dear Etant by Morton Lordson, and the words fit with today. I know they were in French, but some of you might have understood it. It basically is a little bit, my loose translation is, and so it goes. So they say. The words were by Rainer Maria Rilke. I love seeing how different congregations show up on Sunday mornings and other times, how different congregations do things, how they work together, sometimes how they don't work together very well. It's all very interesting to me. Because here in our congregations, we are a mixed bunch, regardless of our ages, our personalities, our inclinations, our interests, our gender, our identities, our work histories, and more keep adding to the list. We're all here together at this time on a Sunday morning. Isn't it a miracle? We all make up the pieces of this puzzle, which when it is all slotted into place, make up our UU communities, and in fact, our Unitarian Universalist Association. My friend and colleague in blessed memory, David Petit, used to say that if you've seen one UU congregation, you've seen one UU congregation, and it is true. But we need all of those to make up our Unitarian Universalist Association. We need all of us, all of us. Where I lived for 39 years before I moved to serve Santa Paula at the end of 2014 was a small town of 13,000 souls east of here in Wayland, Massachusetts, in the Boston area. But in that little town, our ministerial association, our clergy association, was an interfaith group, including my home congregation, which was First Parish in Wayland, which was Unitarian Universalist, really with a very humanist Unitarian background, along with 2 Roman Catholic churches and all the mainline churches. But also there were 2 synagogues and the Islamic Center of Boston, all in this little town. And actually, there were 2 more synagogues just down the way in Sudbury. And so it was, I got to meet and be friends with a number of rabbis, including Larry Kushner, who used to serve Temple Bethel in Sudbury. And I've always loved this piece of his, which fits perfectly, I think, with our personality puzzle this morning, which I'll be getting into, of introverts and extroverts. You can be thinking about which one you think you are. So he wrote this: "There must have been a time when you entered a room and met someone, and after a while you understood that unknown to either of you, there was a reason you had met. You had changed the other, and he or she or they had changed you. By some word or deed, or just by your very presence, the errand had been completed. Then perhaps you were a little bewildered and humbled and grateful, and then it was over." Each lifetime is the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, Larry writes. For some, there are more pieces. For others, the puzzle is more difficult to assemble. Some seem to be born with a nearly completed puzzle, and so it goes. Souls going this way and that, trying to assemble the myriad parts. But know this: no one has within themselves all the pieces to their puzzle. Like before the days when they used to seal jigsaw puzzles in cellophane, ensuring that all the pieces were there, everyone carries with them at least one, and probably many pieces to someone else's puzzle. Sometimes they know it, and sometimes they don't. And when you present your piece, he writes, a piece which is worthless to you, to another, whether you know it or not, whether they know it or not, you are a messenger from the Most High. Whether or not you know, or could imagine that you are a messenger from on high, as he wrote, we are all part of the puzzle in our congregation. It takes all of us to put the puzzle of congregational life together, and it won't be neatly wrapped in with all the puzzle pieces contained in a nice box with a cellophane seal around them. It will take the extroverts and the introverts and something called an ambivert, listening to one another, sharing thoughts, making plans, and trying to keep all the puzzle pieces on the table. I spent a number of years going to my beloved late friend Jane's lake house in New Hampshire in the summer. One of the first things we would do when we arrived was dump a puzzle on her card table next to the plate glass windows overlooking Lake Winnipesaukee. The two of us sitting at that table were a living example of an introvert and an extrovert in action. Me, the introvert, people don't believe it, but it's really true. Me, the introvert, quietly listening to the extrovert Jane talking nonstop, and me lifting my eyes from the puzzle and staring out at the lake and listening for the loons. Woo! I loved that. Somehow, a piece or two would end up underneath her sofa. But eventually, the two of us would get the puzzle together after I took a break for some solitude, listening to the lapping waves, and Jane, keeping up her non-stop dog and pony show. And finally, me crawling around on the floor to find those missing pieces. When I was preparing this service, I wondered to myself when it was that I realized that I was an introvert, which, by the way, is not the same thing as being shy, which I definitely was when I was a little girl. I realized somewhere along the way that what I needed was a lot of time alone, especially after being around a lot of people. That no matter how much I loved the people, and that certain people, no matter how much I loved them, like my pal Jane, sent me running to a quiet space after some time when all the world around me seemed to be filled up with their words, with no way for me to get in a word edgewise. And I usually have a few things to say. By the time I went to seminary, I had thought about it a lot more, with curiosity that I was able to sing and speak in front of hundreds of people with no problem. But then I hated schmoozing at cocktail parties or working the room at nonprofit events that I went to. And I remembered how when I first walked into a coffee hour at a UU congregation, when I started attending services, how uncomfortable I was just walking in the door. It seemed forbidding. Introvert for sure. Maybe that's happened to you. I know when I first came, I sat in the very last pew. So one of the things you do when you go to seminary, which is where you prepare for the ministry, is a career assessment, it's called, to see if you're suited to this peculiar profession of ministry. And one of the personality assessments I had to take was the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. I see some nods going on there, the MBTI. I bet a few of you have taken that. One of the findings that came back for me was that I was something called an INFP. standing for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and perceiving. The INFP personality type is often described as an idealist or a mediator personality. That rang true for me. People with this kind of personality tend to be introverted, tend to be idealistic, tend to be creative, and driven by high values. It's probably one of the reasons Unitarian Universalism appealed to me with the, at the time, principles that we had. INFPs want to make the world a better place and are interested in how they can best help others. It felt like a fit then, and it still does. And, funnily enough, it turns out the minister of my home congregation was also an INFP, and we were able to have interesting conversations about how this personality plays out in ministry and in life. So I wonder how many of you have taken a personality profile. How many of you identify as an introvert or an extrovert? And I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand because that will make the introverts really uncomfortable. Do you think they are opposite? I have never really studied the Enneagram like many of my friends and colleagues have, but I suspect it has some other similar way. Your personality traits determine how you interact with and how you react to the world around you. Knowing more about those traits can help you learn where you feel most comfortable, both socially and professionally, just as what the career assessment was pointing to me for and for my fellow seminarians. And of course, that doesn't mean we don't try things that are a little uncomfortable, because we actually learn the most of ourselves when we're on that uncomfortable edge sometimes. A little bit of history. The idea of introversion and extroversion first came from the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung in the early 1900s. He believed some people were energized by the external world, the extroverts, and others were energized by the internal world, the introverts. Like many things, you probably fall somewhere on a continuum, and so they are not true opposites. That means that someone rarely fits completely on one side or the other, but falls somewhere in between. You could be closer to the extrovert side or closer to the introvert side. We are on a spectrum, even with this. Rather than opposites, we are non-binary, if you will. Different use of that term. Do you know where you fall on the introvert-extrovert spectrum? Introverts and extroverts are kind of like emotional yin and yang. The interactions that drain an introvert energize the extrovert. And people like me, introverts, gain energy from alone time. We live in this country, and probably in the world these days, but definitely in this country, in an live out loud, think out loud society. Being an extrovert in our society is praised and admired, and being an introvert is often viewed as a problem that needs to be overcome or pitied, particularly for little kids. We've all seen it. Little kids like, why doesn't he have more friends? Or why doesn't she call up friends and do things? And other kids are out there with this gang of people. The invaluable benefits of being introverted are often overlooked when people don't look deep enough, because we're often taught as children to be ashamed of our introverted nature by society. And we grow up consistently fighting against ourselves instead of maximizing our strengths. And then I discovered in the last year, when I was planning to talk about all this and the different personality types working together, that there's this other thing, an ambivert. And I made a little joke about swinging both ways. Elements of introversion and extroversion. And I realized then that that was what I was. I was an ambivert. That introverts can learn how to move in an extroverted world, as I have done. In fact, I retook the Myers-Briggs test at the end of seminary, and I had actually moved a little bit on the spectrum down towards having elements of the ENFP. And I thought at the time, whew, all that money and all those years and all those papers has made some change in my life. So what is an ambivert? Very briefly, according to my Oxford Dictionary, an ambivert is someone whose personality has some of both introvert and extrovert features. And you know you're an ambivert if you're, one, a good listener and communicator. Extroverts prefer to talk more, and introverts like to observe and listen. But ambiverts know when to speak up and when to listen. That sounds like a valuable thing to have in a congregation. Second point of it is you have the ability to regulate your behavior. You adjust your behavior to fit the person or the situation that seems to come naturally to ambiverts. You feel comfortable in social settings, but you also highly value, and plan for your time alone. They feel like they're in their element in a crowd, but they also enjoy a quiet evening at home. Empathy. Empathy comes naturally. That's another sign of being an ambivert. And of course, there are some extroverts and introverts who are empathetic, but ambiverts are able to actually listen and show they understand where a person is coming from. And you'll be able to provide balance. In group settings like a congregation, ambiverts can provide a much needed balance to the social dynamic. Are you an introvert in some occasions and an extrovert in others? You're probably an ambivert. The bottom line is that an ambivert typically enjoys other people but needs time alone, underlining that. It makes sense to me. It's why I love being with congregations on Sunday mornings in the sanctuary and at coffee hour when there is one. I gather there's a lot of people going to a baseball game today, so it won't be one today, but after that, I go home and take what we call a preacher's nap, because I just need to be by myself. So I ask you, what does this spectrum of personalities mean for our interactions as a congregation, especially one in search for its new minister? I wonder if you think about if you want an extrovert or an introvert or an ambivert, something to keep in mind. For welcoming new people through the door, people that don't normally come, that might be afraid to walk over the threshold. Would an extrovert overwhelm an introvert who wants to sneak in and sit quietly in the last pew like I did when I first came? An introvert is driven crazy by being singled out in many situations, like standing up and introducing themselves to a whole congregation. There are some congregations that do that every Sunday morning, and I have known of people that never would come back in the door. They made me stand up and say my name. And of course, an extrovert would love to stand up and tell your name and, a whole chapter and verse about who they are. One very handy tool you can have is a covenant of right relations. I don't know whether you have one here. It's kind of a behavioral covenant about how you listen to each other and talk to each other to make sure that all of your voices are heard. My congregation adopted one in the interim period right before I was called, and I called it the magic pill. I mean, it really helped people get along and listen to each other in another way, assuming that people have good intentions, to talk to the person directly when there's conflict, because as we all know, there's always conflict in congregations. So we assume that introverts and extroverts have good intentions, that we want to move forward together, and maybe bring along an ambivert or two to help. I'm going to end with a quote from one book that I read in preparation for my World today by Sophia Dembling. It was called The Introvert's Way, Living a Quiet Life in a Noisy World. At the end of this book, she focused, which was mostly focused on introverts, and the call to have them embrace their nature, embrace our nature in this really extroverted culture of the United States. So she says this: time to call for hands across the personality divide. Time to reach out to each other across the personality divide. And she goes on to say, the beauty of this is that when the yin and yang of introversion and extroversion are in harmony, we create a balance in the world. And finally, from a wonderful author named Susan Cain, who wrote an excellent book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. She wrote this: poets and philosophers have been thinking about introverts and extroverts since the dawn of recorded time. Both personality types appear in the Bible and in the writings of Greek and Roman physicians. I didn't ask Bonnie about that. She's a professor of Latin and Greek, but she could probably tell you a few. And on some evolutionary psychologists say that the history of these types reach even back further than that. The animal kingdom also boasts introverts and extroverts, from fruit flies to pumpkin seed fish to rhesus monkeys. As with other complementary pairings, masculinity and femininity, East and West, liberal and conservative, humanity would be unrecognizable and vastly diminished without both personality types. And here in a UU congregation where we center love and we have our values, which includes equity, we know that we need not only both of those, but some way to mix them both together. So go build a congregation in a world where our world will be one world, built by extroverts and introverts with the help of ambiverts. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Please rise in body or in spirit and sing together our closing hymn, number 134, the gray hymnal, Our World is One World, and remain standing for my closing words.
Oh,
I've adapted from Jean Moreau, and we will end it by extinguishing the chalice. We have a calling in this world. We are called to honor diversity, to respect differences with dignity, and to challenge those who might forbid it. We are people of the wide path. Let us be wide in affection and go our way in peace, whether we be an extrovert, an introvert, or an ambivert. May we form our puzzle pieces to make a beautiful tapestry of a congregation. And now I'll ask Jan to extinguish our flame as I say these words. And now we extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside our walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Go in peace. Amen, and blessed be. Please be seated while Bonnie plays the postlude.